Final Destination, Bloodlines, 2025. I was having a difficult morning today. Felt quite. mm, I had some intrusive feelings, and I really needed a welcome distraction. And this film provided just that because it is a massive tease. It is a horror film, and as such, it um, gives visceral. It has visceral scenes, people being impaled, very nasty accidents, um, and yet all the difficult to watch scenes are very short and sharp. So it's that intensity which I found okay because it distracted me enough and I coped with it. So although I don't usually like horror, I I've got used to the Final Destination franchise as a whole, and this is number six on that. The first one was a quarter of a century ago in 2000, and here we are with Bloodlines, the sixth film, and I gather there's books and other stuff as well. But um, I still had some reluctance, some anxiety about seeing it. I mean, it's health and safety related. It feels actually like health and safety practices are severely lacking in the USA. Um, I don't suppose it is all necessarily true. A lot of things are dramatized for film, but it starts off in the late 60s when there's these this glamorous couple go up a restaurant tower. It's very much like the British Telecom Tower. It was called the Post Office Tower in the 60s, 70s, but it's a bit like the Space Needle or Netinjaula in Tampa in Finland, or numerous other observation towers around the world, I imagine. It's got one of those fancy restaurants, and there's dancing, there's a glass um, glass floor, reinforced glass. I mean, I've wanted to go to the USA to the Grand Canyon to go on that glass floor, or there's other places with glass floors, bridges in China and places like that, that strike me as amazing, that I'd love to do, but um, I imagine the technology's improved since over the last 5.5 decades. But in the 60s, I suppose it's good to go back to that era where Um, there's all this dancing, and of course, there's loose bolts. There's all the sort of things that happen in the earlier episodes where roller coasters careered out of control, that sort of thing. It's a similar teasing rhetoric. It's fun because there's this sort of it has what it does. It gives you the prediction. You know what could well happen, but there's several possibilities. So it doesn't always go as you think it might. And that's very entertaining when you watch it because you think, oh, right, oh, that's going to happen. And then that doesn't happen. You think, oh, right, okay. Oh my gosh, that's going to happen. Something else. There's like a rake under a, a garden trampoline. Um, but that's not, someone removes that. There's one or two people are more clued up about what might happen. Um, one character, oh, what's her name? She's Stephanie. She's like the protagonist, played by Caitlin Santer. Joanna, college student, and she's been getting these really intense, awful dreams. She got this dream about this Space Needle like tower collapsing, and her um, she recognized it might be down to her grandma Iris, who hasn't died but who had a lot of premonitions and apparently saved lives. And so all this intense dreams, intense situations. There's stuff at the very start. It doesn't actually happen quite that way, um, but it feels like it's about to happen. And um, I've had dreams that I've been really glad to wake up from, but I think for Stephanie, she realizes that these because they keep recurring over 2 months, and she has fallen asleep at this lecture, and the teacher's not happy with her when she screams out in the lecture. But she goes because she's also doing it with her roommate being upset. Her roommate persuades her to go home and talk to her uncle and find out the family history. So she travels to the wilderness to uncover more of the story, and this is where I love all this sort of all the narrative elements as they're brought together, um, because it appears like in many horror films the whole family's cursed. There's this family tree stuff. I mean, it's happened in earlier episodes if you've seen this franchise, and you know that it's unlikely that many, if any, of the characters are going to get away unscathed. I mean, maybe they do, maybe they don't, but shards of glass. I mean, I've trodden on one recently. I had to extricate it from my foot, so I winced when that was a possibility. Or glass that's appears in an ice tray because it looks so similar. It can easily get mixed up and appear in a drink. And apparently, when I was growing up, um, I bit a glass, broke it, and so my parents were anxious with me about whether I was going to swallow glass when I was very young. So all these sorts of stories, they mean a lot because of how it can be in real life. I mean, these are risks that we all could take if we're not vigilant and careful about the possibilities. Um, but things like getting impaled. I remember stories set in London, and a story about um, a bar owner, I think, got impaled on railings in the 90s in London, and stuff like that really freaked me out back in at that time. And so I have a sort of fairly deep-seated anxiety about stuff like that. So I'm not keen when those things happen on screen, but they are mercifully quick, and that kind of is a reassurance that when something awful happens to someone and you see their very quick death, I'm at least reassured that they had a very quick death. I think it's the more lingering, painful ones that really bother me. And in a way, the people who last longest in this, I mean, the fact that there's all these nuances about a family tree, all of these possible um, ways that something might not happen according to the timeline. And death doesn't like um, messiness where when someone escapes death, apparently, and that's one of the messages in the story. Um, so, I mean, I grew up i during the 70s, 80s, 90s. I had a slightly morbid fascination with disasters. Um, um, I have a, I'm keen to make a distinction between real life deaths because that's awful and that's affected people and their families. But when it's a fictionalized account, it feels it can be a lot more. There's a lot more leeway. It can be slightly implausible, and in some ways, that's better. It can mean that 1 minute I'm almost crying, and then the next I'm laughing because how it has transpired. If it's slightly implausible, it, it becomes more humorous. So I found it such a wild ride. It was bonkers at times. Like when you see, oh, they've escaped that particular scenario, but you know that something else has happened. There's this bad penny that crops up everywhere. Well, it's not a bad penny, but an elderly woman picks up the penny from one situation, but it falls and it gets lodged in a train, a railway line or railroad um, connection, at a junction. And you can see that that's likely to lead to some further problem. I mean, but all these problems, they arise, and you know that if there's a derailment, that's likely to cause problems for someone who may have survived an earlier circumstance. I mean, this sort of things happen a lot in film, and I think it's happened a lot in this franchise before, and I can't remember all of the earlier five films. Um, but I found it really entertaining. It took my mind off the thoughts that I was having earlier in the days, and that was so welcome. And so it's not exactly relaxing, but it improved my mood today. And I'm going to score it 8.75 out of 10. I mean, I'm so glad that the visceral stuff was short lived. But there's a lot about it. I mean, the technical ability of I think it's a testament to human imagination and the ability to make complicated films now at this point, a quarter of the way, more or less a quarter of the way through the 21st century. This franchise has got better, and I've loved it. So um, I really like it. I mean, some ways it reminded me a little bit of these premonitions reminded me of films like Next. Was that a Nicolas Cage film from 2009? There've been other films with similar themes, but when someone's warning you not to do certain things, and yeah, some of a family will be cynical and just say no, it's you know, it's rubbish. This is they ignore it and they think they're invincible, and yet none of us are invincible. We're all precious humans. Life is precious. It's um, it's valuable, and I wouldn't take it so lightly, especially as time goes on and we've as you get older, you realize unfortunate things that have happened to people and people being taken away in at very untimely ages. And I don't believe that death likes comes after people like this. But that sort of superstition, you can see it in the back of it can linger in the back of your mind. you know, and when you're at things like garden parties and it's a nice setup, but something could go wrong. You look out for everything. I mean, the camera focuses, it hones in on certain hazards that await. And I love the way that mischievous laced predictability where the audience, the cinema audience knows what's going to happen and it layers the cruelty, especially as some of the characters are less likable because of the way they've treated our hero, the protagonist. People like I said, Stephanie. I mean, some of the characters, not quite as deserving of surviving necessarily. Um, but yeah, I loved it. I thought it was a great film. I'd love to know what you think. Thanks for watching this review. Please like if you like this. Um, please hit the notification buttons. Thanks for subscribing. Hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.